Hey everybody, Tom Brown. What's up, Tom?
Hey, Tech, how's it going? Another beautiful day on planet Earth. Yeah, looking forward to a good discussion today.
Yeah, our discussion last time encountered some difficulties. Our YouTube account nearly got shut down thanks to our favorite suppression agent, but we're back. You can't stop us. So now Tom Brown is hosting. Tom, thank you for having me on your show. This is View from the Borderlands. And Tom, you've got some stuff to discuss with us today that is mind-blowing, and you've been talking to me about this for a while. It's a lot more than just climate change that's happening because it's a lot more than just change on the planet Earth. There's change happening in the cosmos as well. The planets are also undergoing extreme climate change. Everything from global warming on Pluto to the spots on Jupiter are changing and new spots are emerging. And to I'm sure Mercury is having its fair share of changes, and pretty much everything is changing. And it's the
Right.
amazing thing is how it's tied in with the planet, with Earth. And I mean, that's just mind-boggling. How close are these connections?
Um, well, they're actually really close. And yeah, we got a lot of material to get into, and we will. But first of all, I want to thank you, Tech, for actually motivating me and inspiring me to get out and start doing these. I'd been thinking about it for a long time, and you've done a lot of really good work in helping wake people up and start getting people motivated to get information out. And just a little quick history, for a lot of people know me, a lot of people don't. We call this View from the Borderlands. And what I did is for 10 years, I edited this magazine, the Journal of Borderland Research, which and I ran a column called View from the Borderlands. So that's where the name of this comes from, and that's where my background in all this research is. But it's going back almost 30 years now. So anyway, just so people know that. But yes, these connections are amazing.
So
There's
before we get into the connections, I just want people to understand that you took Borderlands from just this little pamphlet about UFOs to this to the leading alternative science newsletter in like the 80s and 90s, and it was you took it. It was making a fortune. Well, nearly $1 million in revenue back then. That's pretty amazing. People, everyone from Manly P. Hall to just leading scientists at the time would actually seek you out and buy your newsletter, and it all got taken down because you got attacked by the forces of darkness. So that's why you've been in seclusion for the
yeah,
past 20 years. So now you're back. So now we've got the Grand Ether Mage. Gandalf has returned, and you came just out of hiding just and saved my butt. So I want to thank you for that. And
hmm
that being said, no more interruptions from me. How extreme is this climate change, and how connected is it to the Earth and the cosmos?
Okay, well, let's see. I'll put us up some graphics here, just to kind of show. Let's see how our technology is working today. Here we see is just a graphic just to show the connection between Earth and the Sun. As we know, there's so much on the Earth that's connected in with solar activity, and I think it might be good just to maybe we'll just go through these graphics in order a little bit here and discuss some of the things along it, and the picture will become clear because there's so many different angles. I think that maybe we just have a look and see what we do. But definitely, it is known that the sun does definitely affect. Let's look right now. Here's the Earth global natural disasters charted out. This is hurricanes, earthquakes, everything all sort of put together, and just look at the increase starting in the 1950s. Um, that's quite an increase there. And we have here deadly destructive earthquakes between magnitude 6 and 8 from 1901 to 2011. We can see there is definitely an increase in what's happening on the planet. I mean, people kind of take it now as a religion, like global warming or something. And if you're a global warming denier, it's like evil and stuff. There's definitely climate change. There's definitely Earth changes. You can't miss it. All you have to do is look at the data. The thing is don't get locked up in a philosophical, you know, point of view where you don't like people that don't have your philosophy, go look at the data and keep an open mind. See, there's things like physicists claim further evidence of link between cosmic rays and cloud formation. This is disputed, but there is a lot of information. So we're not going to agree with every little thing I say here. I'm just showing the vast field of what's there, and we look at the general preponderance so that people can make up their own mind. And also, too, I wanted to say here that part of this reason we're doing this here, Tech, is that I want the people that are watching this to go out, get this, look for more information like this, and get back to us. Post it on the Etherforce page on Facebook. Maybe we can set up something, or get something going in the forum on the etherforce.com website, where we can start correlating all of this information together. There are other people out there doing this. There's this very interesting and very knowledgeable man by the name of Ben. I can't remember his last name. He runs Suspicious Observers, and he puts out daily reports on this, and he's doing what I wished I had the ability to do. So, but we have a lot of really good people working with Etherforce, and this is a larger project than any of us can do together. So we just need to start correlating data.
So I just want people to understand. Excuse, there's a little lightning and thunder in my background right here. I'm in New York City. But I mean, those graphs show extreme uptick in all natural disasters. Everything from tornadoes to earthquake to lightning strikes to volcanic eruptions to what else? I mean, and this is all in the past 50, 70 years?
Yeah, look, well, just here, yeah, let's look 1980 to 2010. But we saw from the 1900s up. We're going to see some more information on this as we get more into this and what's happening in the Galactic Center. It's hard to tell a whole story at once. We've got to lay the little pieces out here, and then people start seeing whatever is happening. Look, humans on verge of causing 6 great mass extinction. And we know there's 5 great mass extinctions. The end of the Permian age, where 90-something% of Earth's life was wiped out. Before the age of the dinosaurs. End of the so-called age of the fishes. And we're going to have to do a show on geology someday, because stuff didn't really work the way they tell you, but we're going to get off on a side stream if we go there today. And then at the end of the dinosaurs, right, in the beginning of the age of mammals, there was another one. So there's various ones at different geological ages. And some people think they may have been actually tied in with events like galactic core eruptions. So again, this is something we'll touch on as we go along. Earth on verge of 6 mass extinction. So this data is out there for people to go look. This shows there are always cycles. Global temperature is 2500 to 2040. So sort of predicting, they don't really know. So the fact that temperatures are changing, it's no reason for people to have political agendas and hate people that don't agree with them and stuff. There's it's just pretty crazy out there. And of course, we are in this energetic environment, and it's been discovering all these different sorts of lightning. We don't, we have this lightning that we see, what everybody thinks of, but it's actually going all the way up to the Van Allen radiation belts. And as we were discussing earlier, right, when they sent that nuclear bomb up into the Van Allen radiation belts for their Project Starfish Prime back in the 60s, they actually filled the Van Allen radiation belts with really deadly radiation, because it's like a torus, and they filled the inside. And I found on a National Geographic documentary that apparently the lightning chain from the Van Allen radiation belts down to the Earth actually cleaned the Van Allen radiation belts out again. And that's in a National Geographic documentary on lightning, which is, I believe I've found it on YouTube. It's amazing what you find there these days.
So hold on a second, just to give people an understanding, because how far away from us is the Van Allen radiation belt, and lightning is actually going from the clouds up instead of down?
Well, there's all these different layers. So we're looking at this picture here. This is going up to 100 kilometers. What is Van Allen? I think it starts at about 200 miles, somewhere around there. I can't remember the exact numbers on that. We could probably find it. But basically, I was just repeating what was in the National Geographic. I didn't have all the detail on that. We're just sort of throwing this in. So what we're doing here is we're giving leads for people to follow up further. We're just having a discussion of what little I know so far, which isn't really much. There's people out there really No, I try to take a general view of everything just because I'm trying to get an overview and look at archetypal nature of things as they progress. And if you get too lost into certain layers of things, then I lose my focus on the bigger picture. But nonetheless, here, but okay, so we know we have all these connections. We're connected to the cosmos. You breach an Earth's magnetic field. I'll just go through a few here because we've got so many of these. I'm not going to talk through each one. Earth's magnetic field is fading. North magnetic pole moving due to core flux. Magnetic field weakening in stages, old ship's logs suggest. Magnetic north pole shifts, forces runway closure at Florida airport. And here what we see is this South Atlantic magnetic anomaly. The magnetic field is actually collapsing there. Satellites dip down as they go across, and there's one over here in Asia as well, which is forming. It's another picture of, magnetic changes on the planet. Forget global warming, worry about the magnetosphere. Earth's magnetic field is collapsing, and it could affect the climate and wipe out power grids. Okay, weakened by 15% over the last 200 years. Could be a sign that the planet's north and south poles are about to flip. This stuff's actually in the news all the time. I just collect these clips as they go through. Scientists confirm unexpected Gulf Stream slowing. Okay, so Gulf Stream's weakening. This was 2005. Of course, after the, I can't remember the name of it, when the oil rig was intentionally blown up in the Gulf of Mexico, that's disrupted the Gulf Stream even further, the thermohaline solution. And of course, you've seen some pretty amazing storms like over in England now. Gulf Stream engine weakening. Weakening the ocean currents could be first sign of an ice age. Scientists baffled by unusual upper atmosphere shrinkage. Okay, and earthquakes. So we see this stuff is just going on and on all around us. Most people don't know. I mean, a lot of people are just like watching like football and stuff, and it's like, hey, hey, they kicked the ball, and then the other guy kicked the ball, and it's like, yay, our guy kicked the ball. But meanwhile, what's all this other stuff happening around the world? Here, USGS, worldwide deadly and destructive earthquakes between magnitude 6 and 8 from 1900 to 2008. People go, oh, well, they weren't measuring it that well. They didn't have equipment. Yeah, sure they did. They were pretty sharp. They had some pretty amazing science 100 years ago. Tesla was going to give free power to the world with longitudinal magnetodielectric faster and light electricity. They didn't know anything 100 years ago. We had all figured it out now because we got like iPhones and stuff. Don't mean to be cynical, but it's real easy to be.
So that's amazing. In the past, in the past 12 years, we've had such an amazing uptick in earthquake activity. That's like, if that was the stock market, I mean, your stuff would have gone over like 1,000 or 2,000%.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to look at data. This is deadly and destructive. So there's all different graphs, and there actually used to be a really good website that you could go and work through all the graphs, but lately it's ceased functioning. I was actually hoping to do some there so we could go through those graphs, but anyway, Earth's shrinking atmosphere baffles scientists. An increase in CO2 could be one reason, maybe, but Earth's fluctuation caused partial collapse, or sun's fluctuations cause partial collapse of Earth's atmosphere. So anyway, the sun's actually weakening, and this is something we will get in. Low solar radiation shrinking Earth's upper atmosphere. Okay, so now I know where to go on here. So let's go down to the solar. Okay, here's peaks in inflation. Well, you've mentioned the stock market. I thought I'd throw this one in. Peaks in inflation correspond to solar maximums. Troughs in inflation correspond to solar minimums. So what's really interesting is you look at stuff like the stock market crash, in the Depression. That was tied in with solar cycles. But the interesting thing is, we also know it was manipulated too. So it's very interesting. It seems in some ways that the powers that be actually have known this stuff for a long, long time and actually use these cycles. So they're riding these cosmic waves and playing us. And I believe you may have posted something on Ether Force. I know we've discussed it. the gentleman that did the work on the hidden in plain sight, showing like in America, like all the cities are like on the line, all lined up. But
Scott Onstead, yeah.
yeah, all lined up with like Stonehenge and stuff. I mean, this stuff, and even the whole founding of the U.S. in 1776 was like tied in with like the Mayan Baktun. So somebody knows this stuff. So there is this correlation, but it's actually being enhanced. Somebody knows this stuff in depth. You know, we can only guess at what's really known. Okay, we won't even look at that. Inevitable solar storm could knock out power grid. Some of the stuff, well, they were predicting a big, there's two predictions for this cycle 24. One was it was going to be even bigger than the last one, which I had been expecting just from watching trends, but in truth, some of the other people that were predicting it was going to be weaker were actually turned out correct. Now here's something I wanted to, this is an important graph here, solar irradiance with overlay. So if we look at this, you know, it's not just sunspot cycle, but this irradiance, and they've got ways, I guess, tree, you know, plant growth, there's all sorts of ways to look at this, and you can go find papers where it's discussed in great detail. But modern day warming, so look at here, and when is it? 4151. I believe that something started happening here. This is when the solar system really started changing. And it's interesting. It's also the same time they start blowing off nuclear bombs as well. And of course, there are people who have said that, well, because the blowing up of the nuclear bombs, that's what maybe first brought in the, you know, flying saucers. There's all sorts of interesting connections. But nonetheless, here it is in hard data. Modern day warming comes along here, and this just goes up to 2001, so it's an older graph. But here's cosmic rays are actually going up. So the cosmic rays is projected, but it's not following it. So we've got a higher cosmic radiations are coming in now because the sun's actually decreasing. The sun wasn't increasing, and now all of a sudden it's gone into this big decreasing. So anyway, cosmic ray intensity hits all-time high. Playing a trip to Mars, take plenty of shielding. Of course, they won't need it when they go up because they'd probably be like faking it anyway. So just like Werner von Braun said, when they go to the moon, they're going to need like, you know, couple, like, you know, many feet of like lead shielding to get through the Van Allen radiation belts. But yeah, instead they didn't need it. I guess they developed better technology in a couple of years just to like fly through and not get damaged from the natural or starfish prime radiation.
You know, I just want to bring up Werner von Braun. How much do you know about him? Because I've heard him, like, quotes by him about how they had help from the little people, and how on his tombstone he had a quote from the Bible about the ferment. Have you heard any of that about him?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't really looked too much into him as a person. Just knowing that he was, you know, part of the Operation Paperclip people that came over, you know, to the States in quite a number of projects. But we're going to leave all that political stuff out. I could say about a lot of stuff along those lines, but we're not even going to go there today. Cosmic rays hit space age high. Okay, that's pretty much the. Here, hey, the cosmic rays are increasing. Evolution gone mad. I love these sorts of pictures. Cosmic rays could easily alter the usual course of evolution, and it probably has in the past. It's very, very possible that cosmic radiation from galactic core events has been keyed in with the evolutionary changes on Earth. And I'm not a believer in evolution per se, because what we see is this punctuated equilibria. Let me put this graphic up here. Sine wave diagram of long-term history. Of course, this is from the religious point of view, but it shows that we have the precession of the equinoxes coming along, and here we are here. And now I knew about, you know, I heard about the 2012 thing through, you know, Terence McKenna's Time Wave Zero, and Jose Arguelles. But you know, I thought, okay, well, it's interesting. You know, I'd heard about it sort of through the Rosicrucian stuff, and even Riley Crabb had, in his sort of work on Kabbalistic things, he had spoken of, you know, the precession of the aeons, and he actually had a chart similar to that in some of his Kabbalistic writings. But I figured, oh, yeah, it's all interesting, but I didn't really have any pictures. Just one of these sort of things that swirls around your head while you're thinking about it. But then, back around early 90s, this very fine, intelligent gentleman by the name of John Major Jenkins got in touch with us at Borderland and wanted us to publish a book of his, which we did. We published this book here, Sulking, Visionary Perspectives and Calendar Studies. And what this book did, this was sort of the first book published in popular literature that showed that the Mayan end date was actually the solstice of 2012. And John, he actually lived with the Mayans, and he went down there to help work on schools and things like that as a humanitarian. But he ended up working with day keepers and figured this all out. And then he went and did it. So we published that book, and I think it was probably about 6 months after we published the book that John figured that not only was it the solstice, but it was like the end of the precessional cycle. And that's when all these little pieces started clicking for me. I was going, oh, right. So, because I tried to look through like Rudolf Steiner's work on sort of the geological evolution of the planet, and it's like, I really want to know what was happening. Sure, I've read a lot of books and heard a lot of stories. I used to kind of believe all the Orthodox stuff because that was like the best story I had. But then as holes started opening up in that, I had to keep on looking and see. And then I realized that, yeah, the 2012 thing was really important. And it wasn't just a single date. The Mayans, they had the calendars. But as far as the sort of drift across the, let me find one of these graphics here. I may put this up here. The drift across the Galactic Center is yeah, so this is the sun at the December solstice, sort of moving along. And it's kind of moved, obviously, because we're a year or two past. So this is right. We're going to keep on talking about the Galactic Center here as we move along. Now, if we were just like random rocks flinging through space left over from a Big Bang, this stuff shouldn't have made any difference. What was the point? Here was an alignment from, this was, I can't remember if this was the 1999 or 2001. So the two main alignments, so it wasn't just 2012, the two main alignments were basically 1999 solstice and the 2001 solstice, or 2000. Here, I'll pull that data up here. I should have actually had that ready here. See if I can find it, get that on screen. So this is what, so we see here the sun, Earth, Sun, Galactic Center, and the Moon. And the other one's, so this would have been a full moon. The other one was the new moon, I think a year and a half later. So what I'm going to do is I'll pull up here where I have a bit more of the data and get that. So what I'm showing it here is that the 2012 thing wasn't just one date. This was this is like a 30, 40 year event phase. And what I'm going to do here is hold up. And here was a website. I did it at the time. I never really finished this because I had sort of like these crazy demons like chasing me because they didn't like the way my accountant filled out my papers, and spent years in court wrestling with corruption, which distracted me from finishing this project. So what I did is I'll go through here and I actually have these diagrams with the dates on it. So I put a lot of thought into this, and I was actually wanting to work on a more major project. Okay, here we go. Moon, Earth, Solstice, Sun. So this was 99. Okay, but none of this stuff should make any difference, really. It's like, well, yeah, whatever. But here's another interesting one. Stellar signature of Orion made the 7 candlesticks, 29 June. So that was just after, in 2000, right? So the other one was in the June solstice, was the other one for that, where the new moon was lined up. But here's Orion. It's the end of the solar cycle, and it's handshaking the sun right after the solstice. And of course, what was that? That was Orion. It was of course Osiris. Rose from empty tomb, Jesus rising from the empty tomb. Here it is. There's the precessional climb of Orion, as seen up the north face of the Great Pyramid, 82,000. So this precessional cycle is deeply embedded, throughout all religions. I mean, that's underlying Christianity fundamentally. The whole thing about Christ's return. It's all up in the stars. Winter solstice. I was just going to see if I had any other interesting graphics along this website here, and we can turn that off probably. But just to show that. Okay, it's just another solar cycle progression chart of this current one. All right, so we can get out of there for now, but I just wanted to show that alignment, and that this is a bigger phase. So this, I used to think, well, yeah, it shouldn't really make any difference if we're just like, chunk of rock flinging around a nuclear furnace. None of this stuff would make any difference. But yet, as we discussed in other things like this cosmological botany, you look at all the plant tropisms connected to the moon and sun and the planets, and you start realizing that the life body of the Earth responds as though Earth is in the center. We are in an energetic center, like a virtual world is created. The complex motions of the planets, which we can even put up potentially. I think most people have heard about that, but let me see if I can find a graphic here while I'm discussing this on the complex motions of the planets as they appear from Earth. So we have what they call the apparent motions of the planets. So we have what they call the real motions, which is the Copernican system, which is actually calculated and not observed. Then we have the observed, and that's what they call the apparent. So these complex motions are actually interweaving into the life body of the Earth. I'm just seeing here. Let's see. Okay, I'm just going to take one here, and I'm just going to go Sun and Venus, and let me see if I can, when this opens up, we'll put it up on screen here. So the point I'm trying to make here is that energetically, we're in the center. There's an old occult maxim that the center is everywhere, the circumference is nowhere. Okay, let me start this one up here. I'll start this to start here and talk while this is going here. This is how Venus appears from Earth. It actually creates a pentagram over like 8 years or something. So it's a 5 to 8. It's golden ratio, and we see this signature. Like you cut an apple in half. There's a signature of Venus in there. It weaves in, and I'm not making this up. There's like serious people who have written books on these sort of signatures. It really comes out of the anthroposophical movement, or also what they call the doctrine of signatures. So if this stuff's like weaving in the plant world, so of course this galactic alignment is going to have some sort of higher order function. And this is something that we'll deal with in future hangouts, because it's another whole subject, and that is the higher worlds. That sure, the planet's probably going around the sun. It seems to make sense, for the most part, as pure materialistic, inertialistic assessment of material things. But nonetheless, there is this higher order life body functioning. And let's see how this. So basically, this is what Venus does around the Earth over, like 7.59 years, basically looking at 8 years. Now let's let that run for a bit. So we are connected all the way through to the Galactic Center. So the 2012 thing wasn't just like one date where like lightning bolt was going to hit from the sky and earthquakes would come up and everything was going to fry. I was kind of hoping it. I was kind of hoping that the sun would put off a flare and just sort of like burn out all Big Brother's computers, but then we wouldn't be able to be having fun like this. So maybe it's good that it didn't happen, at least yet. And with the way the sun is going down, it may not. We don't really know. Or it could be because of the low cycle, some big eruption comes just to sort of equalize because Earth is out of balance. And this is another thing that we're talking, and we discussed earlier about the possibility that human activity is affecting these things. And there have been people have looked at possibility that human activity is affecting what's happening on the sun. We looked at those overlays of the solar irradiance, like coming up in like the early 50s, and of course, they were blowing off atom bombs and stuff. But also, there's something happening at the Galactic Center, which we haven't gotten to yet, and we are going to get to that. It may have been the wave front of that may have actually hit around then of what's happening now. I think since we've been talking about that, we can go a lot of different directions here, but I think I'm going to play a little video. This is about 4 minutes, and this is going to give people a background. It's called Big Meal Coming Up for a Black Hole. And let me get it up on screen here, and then we'll play it through. And Tech, stop me if for some reason we're not having sound on this, but it should actually come through from all my tests. We're still let's let it play here. And I just want to paraphrase this. We're looking at the Galactic Center here, and I'll zoom in, and this is a little explanatory thing. And they talk about black hole. Now, I don't really believe in black holes because I go along with the electric universe theory. So it's probably some sort of plasma pinch. We don't really know. I'm sure we can get some of the electric universe people on to discuss this at some point more so. But whatever is happening is a major event happening right now at the Galactic Center. So let's watch this.
I can't hear anything, just so you know.
Oh, okay. You can't. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. Okay, it's the ESA. Yeah, they're just discussing. Maybe if I. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry because so we're not getting sound. So that's okay. They're just discussing. This has been tracking the black hole at the center of the galaxy.
If you want to try something, click on the little gear at the top, and where it says default microphone, see if you can select that video that's playing. I don't know, maybe it will have an option for it.
Yeah. Mm. No, I'll just describe. There's a gas thing coming towards the black hole at vertiginous speeds. It's a cloud of hydrogen gas. Three times the mass of Earth. This little short clip, and they get back to the graphics. So I just want to show the graphics here so people can see what's happening. So that's the cloud moving towards the black hole. Speed's doubled in the last 7 years. 8 million kilometers per hour, speeding towards the center of the galaxy. So it's already becoming disrupted. It says 2009, 2010. The exciting part is yet to come, they're saying. This is about the gravitational fold getting pulled in. Like spaghetti getting in. We'll see a little more of that here. The next few years will be really fantastic. New territory. It's going to interact with the center of the galaxy. We've never seen this before. No one knows what will happen next. May emit powerful X-rays. Right. Truly a unique chance to probe the center of the galaxy. So there are other predictions which make this go faster. Anyway, that's pretty much that. So let me. So I'm back up. Were you watching me or were you watching that? I don't even know.
I was watching you right now. You turned the video off about 2 minutes ago.
Oh, did you see the gas going into the black hole?
I saw a bunch of dancing points of light in what seemed to be the Galactic Center, and that's the last thing I remember seeing.
Okay, well, let me just play this last little bit again then, with the sound off. Yeah, we'll have to work out that sound thing. I wasn't sure. Let me just figure, because I want people to see what's happening. And they're basically saying that this is unprecedented territory.
Okay, I see the video now. I don't hear it, though.
No, well, we know we're not hearing it. But basically, this is fundamentally what they're predicting up to 2023, 2024. There are other predictions. Apparently, just over the last month or so is when it did its closest sort of run. So we don't basically know. Let me see, move up and see if there's any other further graphics in here. Okay, let's just watch it again here. Some are predicting a potential big like gamma burst, and it may be, this big sort of gamma burst bubble that they've detected above and below the galactic center now may actually be because of this. And like I say, okay, it was just repeating again. So we'll have to work on the sound. I think what we could have done is, because it's actually a YouTube thing, and this is on YouTube. Anybody can go watch it. It's called The Big Meal Coming Up for Black Hole. And all they have to do is go and search for Sagittarius A star, and it's spelled A asterisk. It's called A star. And here's just another little view of this, because this gives a different perspective on it. So this is a composite of different things. Here's the center of the galaxy. This is what they're thinking over on the left. Is it's going to be unfortunately some music started playing in my ear when I was doing that. There we go. So basically, and they're talking about here that they see a jet coming out. So thinking that this whole thing is possibly, so I guess this must be the gas cloud coming in. Whatever is happening, there's definitely something going on at the center of the galaxy. We know that. And okay, I think we see enough of that. So that leaves us with what's happening in the rest of the solar system. That's weird. It's like music coming in and out on this thing, which isn't coming from my computer. I don't know if you heard that. Did you hear that?
I heard a slight musical, tone through that, but then it just disappeared.
Yeah, it kind of came and went a couple times. Yeah, I don't even know what that is. It's like nothing I've got going. But anyway, could be coming from another hangout. The lines are leaking. So let's go and start looking at some of the other planets here. We've looked at the Earth. We know that earthquakes, everything's coming up. So let's look at our sort of closest one here. I'm just looking for Venus. We've looked at the sun and the cosmic rays. Also, a couple other quick things here. Well, here's the interesting thing, right? Because here's the sun and cosmic rays have an anti-correlation. So when the solar activity is high, the cosmic rays are low, right? Solar activity is low, cosmic rays come up. So the sun actually protects us from cosmic radiation streaming in from wherever cosmic radiation streams in from in the galaxy. But now, this giant ribbon discovered, it may have been there. The argument that, well, we didn't have this great detail of information before is absolutely true. What we're going to see is a preponderance of things, that everything's incredibly energetic. So giant ribbon discovered edge of the solar system. Here's an interesting paper, and this came out of this plantophysical research of this Russian gentleman, which we'll discuss a bit. A doubling of the, and he just mentions this, a doubling of the sun's coronal magnetic field during the last 100 years. Okay, this is interesting, right? And we can see here, here's where the solar radiance went up and it went down, but then it kind of climbed again. But then we come across this, sun flatlining into grand minimum. All of a sudden that sort of stopped. And we saw earlier the cosmic radiations have gone up. And the sun's magnetic field is dying just like the Earth's magnetic field is. And of course here's, solar cycle hasn't progressed the way they predicted. It's quite low. It's just some other solar cycle and depression recessions. That's what I was saying before, that the solar cycles, they're tied in with depressions and recessions, but there's absolutely no doubt that those are manipulated by the banksters as well. So they know stuff. They're not just sitting there like greedy playing with money. These people are playing with the whole planetary life wave in a very occult, esoteric sense. They built their power buildings and everything all over the world on these lines.
Yeah, I want to suggest a book to everyone, The Science of Prediction by Edward R. Dewey. Really goes into detail with some great charts for like the past 120 years about how that works.
Oh, definitely. I'm going to pull up a sign here. A new book came out yesterday. Let me see if I can actually find it again, on ley lines. This guy's.
Oh yeah, that we posted it on the Facebook page. Yeah.
Ley-man.co.uk. New book just published. Ley lines. This book shows. Actually, put the site up here so people can see it. Here we go. Here's the book, Ley Lines of the UK and the USA, how ley lines were used by the church, royals, city planners, and secret societies. This book shows how knowledge from the ancient Egyptians to the Stone Age has been used by secret societies to build ley lines, straight lines of ancient burial grounds. What's interesting, we've kind of known that, and we discussed that, the guy who did the Secrets in Plain Sight, but here, this shows it's all powered by energies from distant volcanic plugs. I don't know where that music is coming from.
Do you hear it now?
Do you hear music?
No.
Oh man,
David R. Cohen's book. We put up his first book, but they hit us with some copyright complaints and they took it down. Too bad. If you guys got it, that's also a great read.
All right. Yeah. So anyway, obviously, people know this stuff, just like with the depression cycles and things, that somebody on this planet knows a lot more than is out in the public domain, and all we can do is we're just sort of like the sixth blind man and the elephant. We're just out here like grabbing little pieces, going, hey, look, this is a snake, and I go, no, there's a tree trunk over here. This is Uranus, but I was just looking for, let's go to Venus first, and okay, here we go. Scientists baffled discovered Venus's spin is slowing down. Venus is kind of a morning star now, but last year when Venus was an evening star, I had all kinds of people getting in touch and go, wow, what is that? You see that, man? Your friends are calling me and messaging me on Facebook. They're going, go outside and look, man, there's something in the sky. I'm going, it's Venus. I go, no, it's way too bright. No, I've never seen anything like this. I'm going, no, it's Venus. It is. Venus is brighter than it's ever been historically. So Venus has slowed down, but its atmosphere is rotating faster. So whatever in the world is happening with that. So this is just recent, right? Why is Venus rotating 6.5 minutes slower than it was just 16 years ago? If there's this whole uniformitarian sort of view of the universe, everything's just like wearing down, entropy from the Big Bang. Well, what in the world's going on with all this sort of stuff? So let's look here. And of course, Venus is the only planet that rotates retrograde from the rest of the planets, so it's very unique. And of course, Velikovsky said it was a comet coming in, and we know from the electric universe work that our solar system has probably been drastically rearranged in recent times. So we look at Venus, and here we go. Evidence for temporal change at Uranus's south pole. Okay, taken between 94 and 2002 shows evidence for temporal changes in zonal brightness patterns in the south polar region. A relatively bright ring developed. Okay, ring itself is the brightest area of the southern hemisphere in 94, became relatively dark. But basically, Uranus's auroras glimpsed from Earth. And of course, they've been putting telescopes on them for a while. But it's only in the last few years that they started noticing these auroras on it. And it has been speculated that it's had a recent magnetic shift. We know that the planet's like rotating outside, I think 54 degrees or something. So that's quite interesting. So that's definitely getting more energetic. And just not to belabor the point, people say, well, we didn't have the best sort of stuff, we couldn't really see it. And that there is a certain amount of truth to that, but nothing we're observing is slowing down. Everything's increasing. And that doesn't mean just because our data is getting better. Venus didn't change because we got better at recording stuff. Let me find the pictures for Mars now. So let's take a look at Mars and see.
So did you say everything is speeding up except for Venus, which is slowing down?
Oh, no. Oh, well, I mean, Venus is getting brighter and its atmosphere is going faster, and there's like these double polar vortices that are happening. There's a lot. I mean, there was so much data that I was going through and preparing for this. I thought, you could do we could just spend like a half hour going over like all the interesting stuff on Venus alone. So I'm just trying to do a brief overview here. No, what I'm saying is there's all the energetic changes we're looking at on Earth, earthquakes increasing, storms increasing, cosmic rays increasing. Everything we're going to look at is an increase. So let's go up to the next one. I'll just work my way up here. What do we have here? Well, Saturn, superstorm. Saturn, once in every 3 decades storm, first spotted, but this was like way bigger than any they'd ever seen before. Wrapped itself all the way around the planet from 2010, 2011, we can see here. So Saturn does have storms, but like I say, this was the biggest one they had ever observed. And that's what I mean by things are increasing. And
the calamities are also increasing on the planets.
Exactly. Pluto is undergoing global warming. And they're going, oh, well, yeah, but we don't know because we didn't really were able to watch it that much. And yeah, that's true. But the thing is, and Pluto was just closest to the Earth in its long cycle. But it's as it's been moving away that it's been warming up, which is interesting. And here we, so surface changes. And of course, we've actually got something going out there. There's a satellite on its way out to Pluto, so I'm looking forward to that. I think it's 2015 that one's going to, be there. So right, Pluto's apparently shifting and changing. Let's go up here. Brighter Neptune suggests a planetary change of seasons. Neptune's brightness has increased significantly since '96. And again, because these things are 164.8-year orbit, so maybe we don't know, maybe. But why is everything brightening all at once? Or all the planets just happen to be in just that point of their orbit where everything's brightening? So this is a color enhanced just to show some of the features of Neptune, which we know little about. And then here's sort of 2000, from '96 at the bottom, '98, 2002. So you can see Neptune is changing. Mercury, we don't have much data on. It does seem to be much change on Mercury, so we don't really know much there yet. But let's see. Mars melt hints at solar, not human cause for warming. Right? So simultaneous warming on Earth and Mars suggests that our planet's recent climate changes have a natural and not a human-induced. This is kind of great, comes from the straight press. But according to one scientist, controversial theory. Mars too appears enjoying more mild and balmy temperatures. Mars, shrinkage of polar ice caps from 99, 2001. And of course, Mars is having earthquakes and stuff. Apparently, they've found evidence Mars has experienced earthquakes. So yeah, Mars seems to be quite active, and also it's like the magnetic field of Mars. So we see on the left magnetic field of Earth. There's magnetic mapping of Mars on the right. There is like what's going on with that. So just even looking at all these planets and seeing what's happening on them. Jupiter's spot changes dramatically. The third red spot has appeared alongside the great spot and the red spot junior. So Jupiter's red spot turning into little red dot. Jupiter might be losing its most iconic feature as these Hubble shots from 95, 2009, and 2014 show. So definitely Jupiter's undergoing major change. Again, just more of the spot. Now broadcasting from Radio Jupiter. You know, after 50 years of listening in to Jupiter, all of a sudden, you know, the frequencies have changed and gotten stronger. It was interesting. I ran into many years ago. I was chatting with somebody that worked at Project SETI, and I go, "Oh, do you ever get any anomalous signals?" He said, "Oh yeah, all the time." He said, but you know, they weren't like supposed to talk about them, and they always like explained off as different things. But he got quite curious, and he felt that he's going, "No, there's something happening from Jupiter." He says, "There's weird signals coming from Jupiter," and he thought it might have been intelligence signals. It could have just been Jupiter itself. We don't know, but obviously Jupiter's changing in its radio frequencies, and it's lost a stripe. It's interesting. But also, here's Jupiter, and here's Io. And what's happening is there's this like 4 million ampere flux tube is opened up between Io, which is volcanic. So Io is pumping all these gases into Jupiter right now, while all this like radio frequency change is happening. There's just a couple different sort of views of that. So it's interesting. It's, you know, hydrogen, nitrogen, helium, sort of general atmospheric gases are being put in. Of course, we can call Jupiter a gas giant, but all they really know is a spectrographic analysis of the surface. They really have no clue what's inside, and they can go, you know, through their Newtonian gravity theories and sort of think, well, it's, you know, so dense in there and all that, but it could be. There's this whole like nebular or canopy theory of planetary development, which is probably more likely in light of the electric universe. So we don't even know. There could be another core planet in there. This could just be a canopy on the outside, as Earth was probably like this at one point in time, very possibly, as those who are familiar with the canopy theory would know. But that's part of another discussion. Let's see here. Again, just trapped charged particles. This again just shows, just to reinforce the point. And it just shows auroras. So I'm not sure what light those are actually filmed in. Okay, we've already been to there. So let me get out of here for a moment. So yeah, so basically on all the planets, we see that there's something major happening all across the solar system. You know, what in the world that is, we don't really know. You know, we can only surmise, but I think it's really important to take an overview, not make any judgments right off. You know, just stop and think. And you know, are we just like, you know, meat puppets, you know, just stuck here to, you know, fill out forms for these guys that call themselves a government and stuff, and seem to be driving us all into some sort of insane, mad world of, with like killer artificial intelligence drones and stuff, which are about ready to be released on, you know, helpless populations. From the so-called, you know, free world sort of people. And I didn't mean to sort of like go on about that stuff, but really we have to ask that question. That, you know, if there is a major event going off in the Galactic Center, and it is tied in with the 2012 alignment, the end of the thing, and these have been tied in with other, you know, potential ends of ages on the planet, which were large electrical events. I learned this by going out into the desert many years ago, and I spent a lot of years like wandering the deserts in America, looking at things. And I'll see if I can find some Badlands here. I remember I went out, with my late wife Allison and a couple friends. My friend Rich Horton, who was actually best friends with old Richard Shaver, for those who know about that one. That was the old Shaver mystery with the Hollow Earth stuff. But we were out at Chaco Canyon, just investigating all the old site there, which is a really amazing thing, and a giant astronomical observatory for the 18.6-year lunar cycle spread over like miles and miles with hundreds of millions of cut sandstone blocks and just impeccable masonry and stuff just out in the middle of the desert. So we were doing that, and afterwards, after like a week there, I'm going, I want to go up to the Badlands. And everybody's looking at me funny, what do you want to go to the Badlands? The Dinazin Wilderness. That's what I'm actually looking up here. I'm going, no, trust me. And we drive up there. This is north of Chaco Canyon, and I'm thinking, and they're looking at me, and they're saying, "Do you really want to go out there?" Just looking off, it just looks like sort of reddish brown hills. And I'm thinking, trust me, we're going to see something really amazing here. So here's sort of stuff you see in the Badlands.
Wow, it's beautiful.
This is Dinazin. Okay. Okay, that one comes up funny. This is just on Google Maps. But the Badlands are quite interesting in themselves. I've got, behind me here, I've got some geology books. I'll pull out a couple here. White River Badlands, Canyon Geology. Let me turn this back out. I just wanted to show, and everybody's got a computer. Everybody listening to this can go and find this stuff for themselves. But see, I spent a lot of years out there looking at stuff like this, canyon geology, and just going through all the different layers and trying to figure out what is there. And basically, you have here in the Mesozoic, the so-called age of dinosaurs. You've got Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. And what's interesting is out in the desert there, you have the Badlands, like the Triassic, the Badlands outcrop, like in northeastern Arizona there, they call it the Chin-Lee layer, and that's the painted desert, the petrified forest. And you go there, it's actually amazing, because here's these, they tell you, oh yeah, well these trees, they lived their life, they fell over and then they were covered up, and over millions of years they turned into jeweled agate. I was looking at this stuff, I'm going, no, I used to believe sedimentary geology till I started hanging out in the desert. And I'm going, no way did this stuff happen. There's some sort of alchemical process happened here. I couldn't quite figure it out. And I still can't. I'm not sure it's even potentially figurable totally in our present state of consciousness. There's some sort of higher order function happening as part of the life growth of the planet. And if we look at sort of like Goethe's theory of the metamorphoses of plants, I've tried to apply that to the metamorphoses of the planet. And there may be something to that, but it seems like whatever causes these Badlands, and there's only so you have the Jurassic, Triassic, and Cretaceous in the Mesozoic, but there's only one Badland. So you have these big cliffs, like in the Jurassic, like the Wingate Cliffs and stuff, and it's all radiolera, about pure calcium carbonate, top to bottom. And the goal is just ocean just dropped these things. But where's the rest of the ocean? There's nothing in there. You might find an odd fossil here or there, but more or less there's nothing. You have maybe 1,000-foot cliff, and it's got nothing in it. But then the next layer over is a Badland, and it's full of dinosaur bones, uranium, gems, petrified forests, you name it. They're like the mother lodes. So there's one Badland in each of the Triassic, the Jurassic, and the Cretaceous. So like I say, in Arizona, the Triassic one is the Chin-Lee layer. Then there's the Morrison layer in the Jurassic. So a lot of the uranium mines are out west. That's also Dinosaur National Park. It outcrops from Texas up to Canada along the Western Rockies. And they're like wonderlands. You go into these Badlands, you go, God, how in the world? There's no way in the world this stuff just like sedimented over time. And I started looking into it. I've seen recently in the Electric Universes, gentleman has done some videos on the electric geology. He's talking about how, like, and they're showing these crabs. I'll see if I can find some of, and show some of these pictures. Electric fossilization. I'm sure people don't mind us sort of rambling around here because we're going to show some really cool stuff. See if I can find one of the crabs. But the fossils are really weird. I mean, because you find like whole, all the fossil things, they're always saying, oh, well, yeah, there was like a volcano went off and they got caught in the flow and this and that. And here we go. I'm going to like download this and pull it up because this is fantastic. This website's been reported. Thunderbolts has been reported as unsafe. False alarm. Let me get out of here. Continue anyway. Okay, now I'll just put this picture up because I've got it big. Now here's a fossil of a crab. I think they find these up there. I think it's in western Washington state. These actually appear in like eggs. They're kind of like these egg sort of shaped sort of rock nodules, and you crack them open, cut them a certain way, and they find these like fossilized crabs, and they're totally. There's like no way in the world it was just like rapid sort of or long-term sort of transference, whereas piece by piece, little bits of silica got in there and did it. Some sort of like electroalchemical event formed these things. And in the video I first saw this stuff in, the gentleman was speaking about how like water has like 10 protons, calcium has 20 protons, and calcium carbonate has 30 protons. And there's definitely, and my good friend Brendan, maybe I can get him on a hangout. He knows quite a bit about this like transmutation of the elements and how the numbers add up. And so it's very possible that Earth goes through these phases where something happens and whatever's happening on the surface of the planet sort of gets turned into jeweled agate. So they find jeweled like dinosaur bones. I've got some weird stuff here. Here's something I actually picked up in out in the desert. I don't know if it's tree bark or dinosaur skin or something. It's kind of a mixture of, but it's definitely organic. I've literally got no idea what it is, but it does. I thought it was tree bark, and there was some pretty amazing big old trees like sitting around. And but then you find fossils like this. This was found in New Zealand. How these things get in there? There's just so most of these fossils are, like I say, it's some sort of electrochemical or electroalchemical process for rapid fossilization through high energy effects on the planet. So are we heading into another one of those with what's happening in the center of the galaxy? Maybe, maybe not. We don't really know. But I think this is a field of research we should look into. These are, I don't have any answers. I just like to keep forming the question a bit better. So, and that's why we put this information out in the hopes that people will basically go out and start researching themselves and finding out and putting in. And like we have the etherforce.com website and the Facebook page, and that might be a good place to start posting. And I was talking with Tech yesterday how we could organize something where the researchers that want to actually contribute to this can actually log on and put the stuff in. And it's another thing too with the geological. People talk about the ice ages. They're always going on ice ages, the civilization at the end of the ice ages, and this big catastrophe at the end of the ice ages. Here's a lovely book I came across years ago. My prior mentioned late friend Richard Horton, who was a longtime Borderland member from back in the 50s, and who actually showed us all of like Richard Shaver's old original notebooks and stuff. Rich was an interesting guy. But these were Those Astounding Ice Ages by Dolph Earl Hooker. He found this in the Banning Library, Banning, California, and pulled it out. It's not that copy. That copy went back to the library. I found this years later. I just had a photocopy. After you read this book, you'll never believe there was any ice ages. This guy just so thoroughly demolishes that, and he discusses the canopy theory. This is a canopy theory book where he explained the waters basically came from above. And then we have books like here, When the Earth Nearly Died, by D.S. Allen and J.B. Dallaire. You know, compelling evidence of a catastrophic world change, 9500 BC. And after you read this book, too, you'll never believe that there was an ice age. There was a major catastrophe that disrupted the planet, forced major changes, oceans filled up, mountains came up, civilization, some great civilization around the world was destroyed. There's evidence of it everywhere. So, you know, we just have to sort of reassess and create new models as we go along. Take all these pieces. So, you know, rather than having answers here, what we're doing is we're putting out the pieces for a new paradigm to be formed. You know, we've got the electric universe people. I think, you know, we get a lot of information from the creationists. You know, I don't believe that the Earth is only like 6,000 years old. But, you know, I'll tell you, some of those creationists are actually more open-minded about scientific stuff. You know, they might, at least looking at the evidence, they might try to squeeze it into their logic system, but so does the other side. And it's interesting, we find guys like Michael Cremo. If I have that book here, I just see, we have, yeah, Forbidden Archaeology. And that's what this, all these books behind me is basically what's all here, is all this sort of stuff. Michael Cremo. You know, there's like human artifacts found, you know, back into the, like the Carboniferous era. That's actually really bizarre in itself. And we just posted up on Etherforce an old article I wrote on end of fossil fuels. And point wasn't about free energy. It was about that they're not fossil fuels. They didn't come from fossils. Something else happened. And the Carboniferous era is quite interesting in itself, just these massive deposits of carbon laid out very straight. Some of them aerial extent, like 50,000 square miles. And some of the layers are only like an inch thick. And they do find fossils in them. They even find like polystrate fossils that'll like penetrate like multiple layers. Let me just go see if I can find one of those real quick, just to show a picture. These are really interesting because these like, let me get onto the right thing here. And then there's these little sort of layers about quarter-inch thick called fusane, mother of coal. I can't type. I'm not a multitasker. So let's see here. Here's this classic sort of polystrate view image. Let's go over here. Oh, the wrong one came up. Sorry. I'll get back to it. There we go. Yeah, and these are, a lot of these are found in coal beds. Right. Well, so this is all laid down like over millions of years. Each one of these supposedly being a year. And how in the world did this like tree stand there, especially in a coal bed, where you know the thing's supposed to be made out of trees? So if people want to learn some of the mysteries of that, you know, go to the etherforce.com and you know, read my article on, you know, the end of fossil fuels, and you will see that. So the Earth goes through these periodic sort of major changes, and the geological layers are not evidence of the long uniformitarianism. And we have another book here too. Oh, Derek Ager. He was a professor emeritus of geology at Swansea. Wrote a book like The Stratigraphic Column, which I don't have here. But New Catastrophism, a thought-provoking rethink of Earth's history, presents ideas on the world and the rocks around us that will stimulate the student. So what he's saying is he's finally admitting, this is like his last book before he died. I think it was published finally after he died. They were putting it together as he did. He's finally admitting that all the strata out there is actually catastrophic. But then in his bow towards uniformitarianism, because that was his logic circuit, he says, but of course there was long periods of non-deposition and erosion to allow for evolution.
Few billion.
Yeah. Bow at the church. Well, I could go on. You got any questions or any ideas of what to discuss with here? Put you back on. How you going there? You're back on again, Tech?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. My question is this, or one of them rather. The whole issue with carbon dating is, of course, that seems to be totally unreliable. Like, you can't trust a word they say when it comes to that whole carbon dating fiasco.
Oh, definitely. In fact, let me see if I'll see if I can pull something up here. Yeah, actually, I did some writing on that years ago, and unfortunately, I lost track of them because I wrote this brilliant piece on mammoths. It was on a forum, and I lost it in a computer crash, and I never got back around to writing it. And we were discussing the flash frozen mammoths, and somebody's going on about how they were covered up. And the thing is, like, you got flash frozen mammoths, right? They can get like buttercups out of its stomach. But if you go up to the Arctic today and a reindeer dies up in the Arctic Circle, falls into a crevasse, freezes, they find the carcass years later. Basically, the interior is deteriorated. By the time that it froze through to the center, like the stomach acids, it already like destroyed all the food, and the thing started decaying. And that's just like a reindeer. So you take something the size of a mammoth. How in the world are you going to flash freeze stuff in the stomach and get blood crystals that look as, the blood crystals will deteriorate, but they're actually pulling like blood crystals out of these things. They're like impossible unless things are like frozen in like liquid nitrogen or something. Was this energetic? It had to have been energetic in some sort of sense. But anyway, I was discussing that with people, and they were going, oh, but it's been carbon dated. I'm going, yeah, but look, and I actually found it, and there was this one, it was carbon dated to 14 to 17,000 years, and then they came up with this new mass spectrometer carbon dating, and then now it was like 27 to 32,000 years. I'm going, wait a minute, is it 14 to 17,000, or is it 27 to 32,000? How about we get a dartboard and pick, The thing is carbon dating is interesting. It does provide a certain baseline, but it is variable, especially when you look at influxes of what we could potentially call orgone energy and things like that. So the carbon dating, well, I won't say it's unreliable. It's unreliable as a permanent sort of like ruler to check things, but within certain localized situations you can definitely use it. It's an interesting thing. I wouldn't write it off. But I remember years ago, I believe it was in Fortean Times, they ran a review of a book, which is probably out there, I think it was some Darwin wrong, but it was about geology, and it was about like helium isotope dating or something of rocks, and they're actually pointing out that new volcanic rocks were coming up in Hawaii were dating like 15, 20 million years. And the creationists are quite into this, like sort of the radio halos, signatures and rocks and things, indicating. And I've got a lot more of this stuff in the books behind me. But the thing is, I can't figure this all out myself, and there was a reason at Borderlands, and Borderlands was a good operation. We had a lot of fun at it. Mike took over from me after I left. He did a good job. We didn't agree on everything, but I've got a lot of respect for the man, and we've remained good friends through it all. He turned it over to another gentleman. He basically got burned out on it for a lot of reasons. Life does that, and I don't blame him. I mean, I had to move down to New Zealand and stuff in the middle of, right when it was all taking off. But basically, the man who took it over pretty much did nothing and wouldn't cooperate with anybody.
Yeah, his name is James Borges. He contacted us after a certain suppression agent contacted him to harass us, and he wanted me to take down all of Jerry Vassilatos' books that we were giving away for free on key chests. And then it turns out, people are posting in the Facebook thread about this, about how they tried to buy Jerry's books from him for like the past 10 years, and he didn't even send out one. One guy sent him like $400, and he didn't send out anything. So it's hilarious, man. The guy's done
exactly.
nothing.
Exactly. No, I got a lot of complaints from people who got in touch with me that thought I could do something, that they sent the guy money and he never delivered. Well, we won't get into that. I mean, but it's a shame of what happened to it. At least they put up a
So
website and have preserved some of the stuff. But
yeah, so basically people should understand that Borderland research now, there's a squatter sitting on it. Uh, the real Borderland research that Tom is running is borderlandresearch.com, correct?
right, that's a website that I'm doing. I've been using that sort of as an archive, but I think at this point, pretty much we're going to be whatever I put up there is going to be posted on the etherforce.com because we need a good focus. So I'll probably keep it as my archive site in that sense because that's where a lot of the history is. But yeah, I just kind of keep. That's why he calls view from the borderlands. I never really quit. I moved down to New Zealand to expand, and
Yeah,
times
so
were tough.
people should understand that there was a time where like this guy that's running it now just came down on Tom, and him and all his buddies attacked Tom, and it was the same thing, same episode of character assassination and suppression that we're seeing now, and no one came to Tom's aid except Tom, and that's why when Tom saw the same thing happening with Etherforce and myself, Tom was like the only guy to come to my aid, so I'll always respect and love you for that. Thank you, Tom.
Oh yeah, sure,
And
yeah.
that's a
Well,
lesson
I
to
saw
all.
what I saw what you did. You went out. You were trying to like get things going and help out some character who was out in the desert that needed help, and I just saw that you were there to learn and understand and try to figure things out. And when things got going, and somebody else jumped in, and the guy looked like he had a better thing, he just started like insulting you, in public. And
Yeah,
yeah,
to say the
so it's
least.
like, yeah, it's like
Everything
yeah,
from a giant Negro Martian to a Nazi to a homosexual to an Islamic jihadist. It's hilarious, man. Like anything
oh,
that sticks. These people aren't even smart about it.
right, and these are people who are supposedly out there like trying to change the world with new information, heralds of the new age. Um, but and that's it. And the thing is, we've all had interesting lives. The thing that's important is who's actually interested in carrying knowledge forward, figuring out what's going on, actually researching these things. You can see up above my head here behind this long row of colored books, and maybe one of these next ones we do, we'll go through those. And that's Bill Corliss's work. And Bill passed away a few years ago. I call him a friend. We talked on the phone a lot. We corresponded. I never met him in person, but what a fantastic mind. And these are all, well, I'll pull one down just to give you an idea. My favorite sort of reading years ago.
Corliss, is that the Corliss effect, or is that something else?
No, that's Coriolis effect.
Ah,
Bill Corliss, he was a researcher and neglected geological anomalies. I mean, you read through
that's
one of these
good.
books. Let's just pick a page at random here. And erratic boulders, chalks. I mean, there's so much stuff. Micro debris, historical evidence for large-scale flooding. And what this is actually a catalog. So what he did is he actually created his own categorization system. It's really a shame. I actually been discussing with him getting all this stuff put into electronic format. And this is something that should really be done. If we had real funding, I mean, funding's going into so much nonsense these days.
Yeah.
It's pathetic. Where all this like really amazing knowledge is just sitting there unused because people don't understand it or what its purpose is. So this is like ESD4, and maybe I'll find his see his catalog of geological anomalies. So this guy was serious. He was he worked for a large intelligence agency. Apparently, he never said, but that was a story I had heard from Vince Gaddis. Vince was the gentleman who discovered the Bermuda Triangle. In his book Invisible Horizons. Berlitz cashed in, but Vince discovered it because he was a serious researcher and was researching ship anomalies and stuff, going through Lloyd's Register and all that sort of stuff. But Vince told me that Corliss worked for the CIA as a reader, because they're not just all bad guys. They actually go through all scientific data. They analyze stuff. So he was an analyst like that, reading stuff. And what he did is he collected, and I don't know if that's true or not. That's just a story I heard. But he collected all the data and categorized it for decades and put the stuff out. These come out in loose leaf. I got a couple of loose leaf books up at the very top, which I got from Vince. So, first order classification: astronomy, biology, chemistry, earth sciences. So earth sciences E, so that's here, and geochemistry, gravimetry, seismology, stratigraphy, so it's S, and I. So that's so you look one of these things up here, and then it gets down to the lower one. So geodes, which of course thunderstones. We know that they kind of show up after lightning and stuff, which is interesting. So this book is full of so much stuff, unusual superficial aggregations of rocks. And what I found it's got it on like natural phenomena, biology, geology. There's so much data there. If people want to really seriously research stuff and find out what's happening, it's not hard to find. I think most of these books are probably still available on Amazon.com. And so it's about taking the Goethean view. Take a larger view. Goethe, he came up with his color theory, which is that Newton was absolutely wrong. Color doesn't come out of light. Color comes out of the interaction of darkness and light at the fringes of the slit that you run light through, right? And we know we can reverse that. We've discussed that, and that's definitely subject matter for other discussions. And Goethe has metamorphoses of plants, which is actually phenomenal. We can discuss that more sometime, but just basically that the plant, you have the seed, then you have the shoot, then you have this shoot, stem, leaf, flower, seed.
Flower.
So it goes through. Yeah, it goes through the stages.
And he made a very interesting argument about that. Is the plant for the sake of the flower, or is the flower only for the sake of renewing the plant and propagating the plant? And modern science would say that the flower exists only to propagate the plant so it can reproduce. Mm-hmm. But Goethe's view is that the plant exists to create the flower for us. I think it makes a lot of sense when you look at the actual construction of a plant.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just all the sacred geometry, the planetary tropisms that are woven into it, just the smells. We get so much from it, and it takes too long to track the graphic down right now, but it was in a book that I've shown before, Ralph Hauschka's book, where we used to get everything out of the plant, our scents, our food, just everything came from there, the essential oils. Now everything's made out of like coal tar chemistry, like the subsensible mirror realm, from the plant, down to this other thing. Just like the whole world's like in this mirror realm now with the fake currencies and corporate governments and low-grade electromagnetism being pumped down wires with magnets and stuff.
You dissed electromagnetism just now. You call this low-grade.
Oh, it is. It is. Well, people think electromagnetism is basic, but electromagnetism is an effect of electricity and magnetism. There's electricity and magnetism. The electromagnetic spectrum is kind of a fallacy, which kind of gets into the Goethean. But what I was going to say, the whole thing, the point is that Goethe would try to get all the information and look at something and build a larger picture out of it. This is what Rudolf Steiner discussed, is using creating new organs of cognition, using the Goethean process. And that's what I believe is possible out of Bill Corliss's books, because he's put all this data, and there's so much data in there that in the whole shelf, that's all data that refutes the conventional theories. And it's all data that's scientifically recorded. So the thicker books you see, those have magazine articles and stuff, from different things. There might be some more popular press. But the thinner books, the catalogs, it's all scientific data cataloged according to a very strict system, so you can look it up and figure it out. So, it's not hard to find interesting information to look at. And that's just one shelf. This thing goes on for a while.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing because, we started off talking about this immense change in climate and how these catastrophic incidences are rising through the roof. Like, it's not just like 50% or 100%, it's like 1,000% increase in devastating earthquakes in the past 50 years, or 10 years rather. So this is a pretty
Hmm.
extreme change. So, you try to rationalize this and figure out what's going on, and it's not being reported clearly. They're not making a big deal out of this. So what's going on? So, uh, there's what else do we have you heard in your experience of any kind of religious or mythological um, uh, predictions of this new coming age and disasters?
Oh, I think it's like deeply embedded in a lot of stuff. I mean, we saw the whole sort of 2012 psyop meme. The world was going to end and stuff. um, and of course, because of that has been embedded in various religions and philosophies, it was actually very easy for that sort of to come to people's mind and for them to think it. I mean, I didn't think anything was going to happen on them because I was looking at like these, alignments in '99 and 2000, with the moon and stuff, and I was realizing that it was this greater period. And looking back at the periodicity of the structure of the Earth, and all it's I basically had all this data in my head at the time, so I wasn't just sort of like first time hearing about this thing. Oh yeah, mine too have a calendar. It's going to end. Yeah, and the world's going to end. Hey, that sounds good. I think I'll go tell everybody the world's going to end. So I never really said that.
Start selling beans.
Right. Well, what I found, the important thing to me is what I discovered, and this is what I was trying to do. I was trying to put together back about, maybe 7, 8 years ago, 2008, 8-ish, 2000, basically 2008-ish. Is I had this whole vision. I found the whole thing sort of fit together for me of how the 2012 thing, the anthropocentric cosmos, and how the geocentric and heliocentric work together. So what I was actually looking to do, and I was trying to get the funding together and talk to a couple people that were actually interested, and it almost came together, but like I say, I call demons in the mandala, corrupt officials here in New Zealand. They like to pick on successful American businessmen, and I'm not the only one, and they just like want to get you. They just like do it. And
Yeah,
I had some
Kim.com
top,
got busted. All 400
yeah,
pounds of
yeah,
them.
yeah. They just rolled that boy. Um, and Yeah, it's so that's it. If they want to pick on you, they pick on you. And if you're an outspoken sort of person, then they just, I mean, I'm still in the middle of stuff now. We won't even discuss that, but I don't even care because it's just, like I say, that's just part of the spiritual path. But what I was trying to do when I was like seriously interfered with and spent years in court with corrupt officials filing false papers and stuff and writing works of fiction, which I can't verify, but I won't bother. I'm looking for a day I can burn all that stuff. I want to get one of these immersive environments, the projection domes that they have, and they use them in planetariums and stuff, and create a plastic universe where you could actually show exactly what's happening, and basically create like a 1 to 2 hour show where you could bring people in, and we're telling all these little pieces, but just put into like a real simple sort of so they can alter their consciousness, in 90 minutes. And go, when they walk out, they see the same day, but it no longer looks the same to them because this higher order vision has been imparted to them of like the anthropocentric. It took me a while to get on what Skinner was talking about, but eventually I did. And whether or not it was exactly the way he saw it, I believe we'd probably be pretty close. And I wish he was still around. I wish there's a few people still around chat too, like Rudolf Steiner and Dinshaw Gadiali and Wilhelm Reich. Because I've got questions for all those guys.
Yeah, those guys were on a different level. I mean, it's like I was telling you earlier today. I've been studying cosmology, and you're the one that turned me on to the geocosmos and all that stuff and the four world model, and really been going into it. And I published this article on Etherforce called "Isn't It Strange That?" with 40 questions about cosmology, like. For example, if the Earth's core is made of molten iron that's magnetic and that's what's causing gravity, but the Curie temperature of iron is 750 degrees Celsius and the core is supposed to be a lot harder than that, at the Curie temperature, it ceases to be magnetic. So right there's a huge contradiction. How do they explain that? Simpler things like in the vacuum of space, how does the Earth maintain its atmosphere? And
Right.
just 40 points of things like that. And it just opens up your mind. And when you research their scientific rebuttals to that, it's basically what I call D. AMH, dog ate my homework. It's literally that
Right.
sad.
Yeah, yeah. No, no. I read that article, and actually, some of the points were good. I didn't agree with all of them, and that's good. I mean, but it's thing is some of them are, and that's the thing. And that's why I mean, you mentioned four worlds. I was always sort of brought up too, but and maybe let's do that. Maybe next hangout, maybe let's do a four worlds, and actually just get into that so people can understand, because that's really the core of sort of I can't call it my belief system because it consists of four belief systems that sort of interpenetrate and work together, and have allowed me to understand archetypal basis, sort of interpenetrating Eastern and Western philosophies, from like Rudolf Steiner's etheric sciences to the Vajrayana mandala of the Dhyani Buddhas. So, and I believe we're all experiencing that all the time, and that's, I think, what this is all about. You know, the apocalypse is not about this big disaster. It's about waking up and becoming aware. And you know, cosmic orientation. You know, while we're sitting, you know, you want to watch sports? Yeah, go ahead. You know, but that kind of like clutters up like the etheric airwaves. You know, what's the whole planet doing? So everybody's distracted. It's like, you know, what's on the internet? You know, we can use the internet for things like this. You can find amazing stuff on there, but you know, somebody was doing some statistics the other day that I can't remember what the percentage of like porno on the internet. It's like, you know, the major like feeds on the porno, I mean, on the internet is basically porn, you know, which is a pretty sad way to sort of like have human interactions. But
If
that's
it's
the
not
signal.
porn, it's gambling or it's BS like Twitter. That's basically like the telescreen from 1984.
Oh, exactly, exactly. So yeah, it's all distractions. So everybody's distracted. You know, people waited millennia for this like magic time we're in right now, when all this information was going to be available, and all the secrets are revealed. I mean, I've got like all these books further down here. I got shelves full of like all the Taoist alchemy and, you know, Tibetan stuff. I've been reading that stuff for the last 40 years as well. And any system you want, you can find the keys to it. Nothing's hidden anymore. It's just there's so much of it. Where do you find the time in this
So
distracted?
that's our job to bring the best stuff upwards in a way that people can digest. Because, as you said, this is the time where everything is coming to light, where the greatest scientific revelations the world's ever known are coming to light, where we're actually going to know the real structure of our universe. We're actually going to know how powerful we are. You know, how this world and this universe is really centered around us. And we don't say that in a egotistical way. That's just the way it was designed.
Oh, absolutely. Right. You know, people have people. Oh, yeah, world would be better off if humans weren't here. I said it would be better off if humans acted right. You know, we're the primary sensory nodes of this plane. You know, we don't have this level of consciousness for nothing. You know, it didn't just like, you know, rise up. You know, because matter is sort of like happened to fall together a certain way. Obviously, you know, consciousness is behind everything, and that's what. Let's discuss this a little bit more. Why don't we do one? Maybe the next one we do. Why don't we do on the four worlds? That way we can just, because after that one we can go anywhere, and just really discuss it. I think that's too much to really start going into it at this point.
Yeah,
Um,
it's way too deep. You're right. So let's talk more
let's just
about
start
this
walking through.
climate change. Like, I mean, what should people make of this? They're going to want to, like, what should they take away from this? Like, what are they, when they turn to their best friend and say, hey, did you know, what should they tell them?
Well, I think the main thing here, the main point of this whole thing is there's a major cosmic change going on in our lives, on our planet, in our solar system, and in the center of our galaxy. And this is something perhaps we can get into a little deeper as we go along. Is you know, the old Gnostic legends, and I actually studied to be a Gnostic priest for a few years. I never joined or initiated anything. I was closely associated, knew a lot of people in a lot of different orders and things, and just because I knew everybody all over the place. Um, as Trevor Constable told me, he said somebody wanted to ask him about me. He said, "What do you know about?" He goes, "What do you know about Tom?" I said, "No, does Tom know everybody?" He said, "He knows the skeletons in their closets." It's a funny way to like think of me, but Well, because I always talked to everybody and found out everything was going on. Um, but I studied through the Gnostic stuff and, Elaine Pagel's work and Hans Jonas and all that, but that was so Christian Gnosticism, as they called it. And I saw basically back in 1987 in LA, the Rudolf Steiner Foundation, my friend Don Hosier, who passed away unfortunately a long time ago, he was organizing this lectures, and they did this lecture with this guy John Lash I'd never heard of before, so drove up to LA to see that from San Diego, and it was on Christian Gnosticism, but he was talking about like meditating in Newgrange and thinking about it as a solar marker, and how that this whole thing that the second coming of Christ and the Gnosis had something to do with the timing of cosmic events. So, when the 2012 stuff sort of rolled around, I was always wondering what happened, John. I never really tracked him down. Eventually I did, and he's written a couple of really interesting books, Not in His Image, which is on radical pagan feministic Gnosticism. And he did what was that? I didn't hear you.
Yikes! Radical pagan Gnostic feminism is like that kind of worries me. I don't know.
Oh, no, well, if that's what it is, you just got to keep an open mind about everything. That's his view. But here's what's interesting. So his whole thing is a Sophia sort of mythology. And his take, and John's quite a scholar, and he, so he's coming from basically I would call it a psychedelic, enlightened, scholarly approach. But he's so basically in the Gnostic, there's the pleroma of the aeons. It's like the center. We'll relate that. That's the center of the galaxy, but basically it's the pleroma of the aeons is where it's this singular mass, what we call heaven or whatever, but these creative singularities arise and would create worlds. And they would they'd shoot these like gossamer threads of out into space and create these like worlds, and they create these beings. But all the beings were all like tied in with the environment, like whales are tied into the ocean, bears are tied into like the animals, all these, even though they have awareness and consciousness, they're tied into their environment. So this one creative singularity arose called the Sophia. And Sophia was trying to imagine a being that could take control of its own evolution. And while she was imagining this, she got, as the legend goes, she got too close to the edge of the pleroma, and when the pleroma erupted and flung this chain of worlds out and formed this world, she actually, because she got too close, she fell into the world with it, and that became like the Gaia, right? The world, Mother Earth, as we call her. So that's why Earth is a special place, and it actually is mathematically. If you look at like the mathematics of all the way the planets all work around Earth, Earth is the only one where you get these like amazing patterns. You get them on the other planets, but Earth is the only one where it actually works, where all of them have these amazing, like we showed that one Venus one. And we know we've got the Earth Moon sort of what do you call it? Sacred geometry, which we've discussed before. Earth is a very special place. It is a higher order space. And we go back to that old maxim, the center is everywhere, the circumference is nowhere. So we are in the center. It's a projected center out. And how this projection works, we don't really know. The electric universe is starting to give us some clues.
I remember Steiner called the Earth the eighth sphere, which I found very interesting. You ever heard that?
Yeah, there's so many of those systems. I kind of got lost in them. And for a while I used to remember them all. And I actually have notebooks. I used to try to keep track of them. And I found you can only put so much stuff in your head. I mean, some people have better memories than me about stuff. I seem, like you when you're talking to Mike Thoreau, the eighth forgot more than most people knew. That's true of a lot of us, actually.
It's definitely true of you. You've forgotten but you've forgotten most, like maybe the top 10 researchers know right now.
But what's interesting about this whole Sophia legend is if you go to like Halton Arp's work in like the disturbed galaxies, and the fact that the redshifts are connected to energetic state and not age and distance. So that it's actually when galactic core eruptions occur, and I'm glad this came up now because this really ties in with what this whole thing we've been talking about. When you go these galactic core eruptions, they used to be called like, well, it was Seifert, I forget his first name, might have been Carl. He was guy who was studying the galaxies that seem to be in like high energetic states, and then found out that all galaxies do that. It's kind of like Seifert events, right? Galactic core eruptions, which may be what's going on in the center. We might be heading towards that, maybe not. I don't really know, but we've definitely gone through them. They're periodic. All galaxies do them. And that sends these big waves of energy through, and that could be what's responsible for the past extinctions and big electrification events and rearrangements of the solar system. There's got to be some tie-in with that. But basically, as Halt and Arp showed in his work, is that not only during these events is when the galaxies actually emit quasars. So the galaxies are giving birth to themselves. I bring this up in my video Quaternity. The Earth is growing; it's not expanding. I mean, the universe is growing out of itself, like having children. It's not just expanding out from some like pointless Big Bang. But also, not only does it shoot these quasars up, it also shoots out arms too. So even though we think of like we look at the galaxy, it looks like a whirlpool sucking in the middle. Actually, they're surprised, and this is nothing I'll pull out too at some point. When they start mapping the stars, scientists, I've got one of these things I have in one of my other talks. Scientists are surprised because they're mapping all the motion of all these stars, and they're all moving away from the center of the galaxy, which is kind of opposite of what they thought. So hey, they're surprised. Got some new equipment, turned it on, and hey, this stuff's not working the way the theory. So let's, rather than change the theory, they just monkey with it a bit to like explain it, which is why they came up with nonsense like dark matter and dark energy and things. But my point here is that this old legend, as interpreted by John Lash, which is probably the purest, most enlightened form of this legend to come out in our time, or the mythology, correlates very congruently with Halt and Arp's interpretation of galactic formation and galactic expansion. So when I see correlations like that, I'm thinking, no, there's definitely something going on there. I'm throwing that into one of my belief systems and see if it filters into some of the other ones. And sometimes these things like totally interpenetrate and transform all of them and help make the whole sort of mental or cognitive structure more dynamic. And so anyway, there's a lot of things like that we can always keep on discussing. I think we probably did a good run here for the day.
So definitely, just to understand, like these cosmological events are extremely closely tied in with what's happening on Earth with these cataclysms and catastrophes. But there's also a spiritual component. Our own enlightenment, our own spiritual awareness, our own strength, our own consciousness, our increase in knowledge and in knowing together, we can drastically change things. Like we really do have this power. That paper on the planet to state, published it on Etherforce after you pointed it out to me. That's what it says at the end. Like, no matter what happens, no matter how bad it gets or good it gets, we can actually change it. Our consciousness, our collective consciousness, has a direct effect, not just on what's happening on Earth, but also in the heavens, and vice versa. So we can really will ourselves out of any situation. So this is not about gloom and doom, because we have real power, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's absolutely what it's all about. As I mentioned earlier, cosmic orientation. Here we are. We got these lovely like clay suits for a while, the meat puppets as they call them. But some people say, well, there's nothing happening, and they can argue whatever. But my experience sort of levels has been such that I've been out of this body in this aware consciousness, during illness and other events, and there's no doubt. And that's why, and that's something we discussed. This cosmic orientation, through the four worlds, also ties in with the structure of the sort of our formative body. The so-called chakras and things, which are the elemental centers that are built up. And again, I'll get too detailed if we start getting into that, but not everybody walking the planet right now has a conscious soul. They've all got elemental parts in them, which can come because all the elements are being torn up. Steiner said that the part of the task of our civilization was to release these elementals so that they could begin their path towards conscious evolution. They're not conscious yet, but there is some level of awareness even at the metallic layers. And again, we'll have to, again, because I need a stack of books to start going down that rabbit hole. That's the rabbit hole next door.
Rabbit hole. That's a real living universe we're in right now.
Right, but it's only when the bottom four chakras, the four elements, are basically combined through initiatory processes or long-term living through precessional cycle or whatever, then the heart crown system becomes conscious and starts happening. And of course, then when we really get into these higher states, then the mind starts releasing psychedelic type compounds like dimethyltryptamine, which you do during birth and death, and every night when you dream, pretty much, the mind goes into sync with the Earth's pulsing magnetic field, and it converts the melatonin into dimethyltryptamine, and you dream. That's when you're in REM sleep, is when you're merging with the Earth's magnetic fields, and it's changing the molecular structure of your brain.
Well, I have to ask,
mm-hmm.
if one is going to do dimethyltryptamine, of course, the most important thing is the place you're in and the people you're around and your own mental state. But is there a time now, like an auspicious time to do this, like astrologically speaking?
Well, yeah, I don't recommend anybody do that stuff. I mean, everybody's on their own personal voyage with that. I've been to Peru and done like ayahuasca workshops, and have actually been looking into a research project on that with ayahuasca and creativity and brain states, and been looking at all the psychedelics and the different sort of effects on the brain and the relation to neurotransmitters. It's quite an interesting study, but it's not because I don't really recommend anybody does that, because everybody's got to make their own choices about what they do in life. And not only that, there's laws against the expansion of consciousness. So, it's also something you have to be very careful with. And why in the world are there laws against the expansion of consciousness? That is a really primary question right there. But so the spiritual awakening, people think the system, well, we are the system. It's people asleep allows the system. It's people shirking their responsibility, standing up and trying to figure it out. There is no easy answer other than just stand up and learn and try and, expand your mind, turn the football off, whatever. These guys, they just run up and down the field kicking stuff. It's kind of fun. If you want to go out and play, go play, do some exercise. But it's the point where people are like mad, and like painting their faces and going doing all that. And maybe some people watching this like doing that. So I'm sorry if I insulted you, but I think that's just total distraction.
Bullshit.
And I've been there myself. I mean, I grew up in Chicago. I used to love going to, even though the teams always lost when I was there. The Bulls always sucked when I was there, and the Cubs. But I love going to Cubs Park because you could sit because they didn't have lights, and you could sit in the sun and watch a game and enjoy it. So I'm not really knocking it in that sense, but when it becomes obsessive, when the big game overtakes people's ability to know what's happening in the world, if you know if you're well aware of dynamic happenings, on Earth and in space, and you want to take some time out and watch a game, well, go ahead. But if you don't have a clue, and like your entertainment is watching TV, I went out to this nice poetry reading thing last night, but talking people, and some of the conversations after, people were talking about Game of Thrones and stuff. I'm like, God, people actually watch that stuff. Distraction, bread and circuses, to keep everybody distracted. It is spiritual, and those distractions are anti-spiritual distractions, intentionally put there to prevent you from using your mind properly. That's why they call it programming. So you can go watch a program, or you can make your own and figure it out. And so now people say, well, are you into spiritual stuff? I go, everything's spiritual. Is it not? That's where everything came from in the first place, and that's where it's eventually going to go. But while we're here, we've got some solid ground to get our orientation and learn things. So I think that's, just tell people, open their eyes, wake up, look what's out there, don't get wrapped up in conspiracy theories. We know 9/11 was an inside job. I knew that before it happened. But I'm not going to argue it. A dozen years later, it doesn't matter. You're not going to bring these guys to justice. That's not the point. The point is we're in major earth changes. wake up and look at what's happening cosmically. Look at the real stuff. What more can I say? That's pretty much it. Yeah.
You said all that needs to be said, and one of the things I've learned from you is that everyone talks about consciousness, but what is consciousness really? Is it just sitting down, smoking some weed, and talking about love and dreaming about whatever? No, it's consciousness is literally knowing together. So knowledge must come first. Once we all have the knowledge, the truth, then we're going to have real consciousness because it's a collective thing, and then we can all be one in a sense that matters. Now we can all do things. So yeah, thank goodness we have characters like Thomas Joseph Brown still around and still willing to teach us, still willing to stick his neck out and give us this knowledge. Because it seems every time you try to share this with the people, the spiritual dark forces, the ancient spirits of evil, if you've ever watched Thundercats, come out of the woodwork and attack you. And that's real. So thank you for that. I'm very thankful. If you're my mentor, and if it wasn't for you coming out of the woodwork, I would I don't know where I'd be right now. So thanks, Tom. You've really made a difference, at least in my life.
No, you're welcome, Tech. No, and I do. I mean, I'm in the middle of some crazy sort of stuff with, which maybe we'll discuss that at some point because it's actually quite interesting. Major sort of legal issue has been brought to the fore. And heavens knows what happened. And if it was a third world country, they probably would have already sent the squads out after me. But New Zealand tries to pretend to be a first world country, so they're being polite so far. But nonetheless, I don't even care about any of that stuff. It's just minor distractions. Because someday I'm here on this plane now, and someday I won't be. Whether that's tomorrow or 30 years from now, I don't really know. But the thing is I already know my cosmic orientation. I'm ready to go when I have to, because I understand what the archetypes are. I've been through the systems. I see where they are. I see how they function outside. I can go out. When I look at the sky, I see the cosmic archetypes functioning in their pure form. Everything devolves from there. The answer is right in front of us every day. And we'll discuss that in the Four World one when we do that one. Anyway, hey, this has been a lot of fun, Tech. I really appreciate all your interest in getting this going, and yeah, this is fun. We'll just keep on rolling, and yeah, hopefully, like I say, get people more interested, start putting this information out. We'll work on some way that people can post this. For right now, maybe they can start putting it into the Facebook page, and we'll just start correlating more, just any of this sort of planetary change sort of stuff. And if people are channeling it and all that stuff, that's cool, keep that to yourself. It's not that I disbelieve it, it's just that we're really trying to get the objective data. It takes two eyewitnesses to verify an objective fact. We're trying to get verify objective facts here. What people's subject interpretations, they're welcome to them and bless them. But their subjectivity is not of interest to somebody else necessarily, unless they can relate it through objective facts. That's, I think, the point here, and that's the true metaphysics that merges the subjective and objective. Anyway, thank you. I think we'll sign off. You have a good time, Tech, and we'll definitely catch you soon.
Until next time. Thank you, Tom. You
rock.
All
right, cheers. Thank you. Bye.